Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today for the webinar, Breaking Barriers, How Sports Shape Women Leaders. My name is Ingrid Chadwick, and I'm the Academic Director of the Lawrence Seddy Center for Women Entrepreneurship and Leadership. And we're delighted to have you with us for this annual event that we host each March in honor of International Women's Day in collaboration with Concordia's Women Who Lead initiative. Before we go further, let's do a little check to make sure the technology works. So if you could just take a look at the bottom of your screen, there's a chat box where you can submit any questions you might have. We will have time for a Q&A after the panel discussion, so submit any questions that way. If you have any tech problems, use the chat. We will do our best to help you as well. And for now, if you would like to, just to make sure it's working and for us to get to know each other, please drop us a note to let us know where you are in the world. And in light of the topic, if you want to let us know what sports you're involved with or have been involved with, that would be great as well. Oh, great. Lots of Montreal. We got badminton fans and martial arts. Welcome, everyone. That's great. Thank you for making sure it's all working. Okay, so I do want to let you know as well that this session will be recorded. So we will share that with you in about a week's time. And I think, oh yeah, thank you so much, everyone. Welcome. All right, so while we are meeting today on a virtual platform, it's customary to begin our events with a territorial acknowledgement. So we acknowledge that Concordia's campuses are located on unceded Indigenous lands. The Ganyogehaga Nation is recognized as the custodian of the lands and waters on and near where Concordia is today. Montreal, or Jojage, is historically known as a gathering place for many First Nations. Today, it's home to a diverse population of Indigenous and other peoples. We respect the continued connections with the past, present, and future in our ongoing relationships with Indigenous and other peoples within the Montreal community. So with that said, welcome to all of you again. And before we get to our panel, I do want to share just a little bit of context for why we created this event. Our goal with these webinars has always been to aspire and to support women leaders and entrepreneurs. And this year, we decided to focus on women in sports for reasons both grounded in research and current events. Because if we think back to the Olympic Games, we witnessed some extraordinary women athletes compete on the world stage. And their performances, they're not just about medals, right? Like they show us about discipline, resilience, and showing up under immense pressures. And these are qualities that resonate far beyond sports because visibility really matters. Even as workplaces continue to become more inclusive today, research shows us that many of our ideas about leadership, about effective leadership, they're still shaped by gender stereotypes. And so we continue to associate leadership with, I guess, more masculine characteristics like dominance, assertiveness, and so forth. And these assumptions create bias, they can limit opportunities, and even create self-doubt in women when it comes to leadership in particular. And so sport has a really powerful role in changing that narrative because women athletes and coaches, they challenge outdated ideas by leading and succeeding in ways that expand our understanding of what leadership is all about. And just as importantly, I should say, participating in sports can help women build really critical leaderships that will help them thrive in this space. So that is why we put together today's panel. We have an incredible panel of women leaders with backgrounds in sports. They will share their own personal stories of growth, resilience, and success, and they'll reflect on what we can all do to create an environment for leadership where more women can truly thrive. And I should add, for those of you who might have girls in sports, that we're hoping this event will also be a reminder that all those early practices and long drives truly are worth it. So, to guide our important conversation today, we are thrilled to have and welcome our own alumni, Anna Martini, as our moderator. Anna has built an impressive career spanning finance, retail, and sport. After nearly 2 decades at Deloitte, where she became a partner, she went on to serve as president of Group Dynamite and later as executive vice president and chief financial officer at Group CH, the organization behind our Montreal Canadiens. And she's currently the CEO of Psycho Bunny, as you can see by her background. And she remains deeply involved in the community through her board work. So welcome, Anna. We're so grateful to have you here. The mic is yours.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Ingrid. And I'm very, very, very happy to spend some time with all of you today. And thank you all for joining. So I just wanted to start off with, I'm happy to be back. But first of all, I've never really left Concordia. This following my graduation, I continued to stay involved with the undergrad case competition. And now I've been serving as an advisor to the business school. So my heart is always attached to Concordia, and it was a very, very important institution for my own success. So thank you again. It is a pleasure to spend time with you will see these three very impressive and amazing women that you'll have the opportunity to hear from today. I am in complete awe of the three of them, and I'm happy to introduce them all to you. So firstly, I will start with Caroline Ouellette, who is a 4-time Olympic gold medalist with Team Canada. So Caroline, congratulations again on that unbelievable success. One of the most accomplished athletes in women's hockey. She's currently the assistant coach of Victoire de Montreal women's professional hockey team, and recently coached Canada's national women's team at the Olympic Games, where the team took home the silver medal. Again, congratulations. You made us very, very proud. She also served as assistant coach with the Concordia Stingers women's hockey team. So welcome, Caroline.
Thank you, Anna.
Next is Christine Regimbal, who is a proud JMSB alumni and a CPA, who is with Raymond Chabot Grant Thornton. So Christine, we didn't cross paths in the past, but I'm very happy to meet you as you are. You know, I call them like in my inner circle of CPAs. You also have had a wonderful career. You helped initiate Quebec CEGEP and University Women's Rugby League in the mid-'80s and went on to captain the Concordia Stingers women's rugby team, and later returning as assistant coach and helping the team win 4 successful championships. Bienvenue, Christine.
Thank you, Anna. It's an honor to be here.
And finally, we're happy to welcome Alex Tessier, a professional rugby union player with Exeter Chiefs in the UK, captain of Team Canada 2025 Rugby World Cup, where the team captured a historic silver medal. Bravo, Alex. Very proud of you. Also a JMSB graduate, standout on the Stingers women's rugby team, and was named an RSEQ All-Star 4 years in a row. Welcome, Alex, who joins us from afar, I must say, on a sunny day in the UK. So it's a pleasure again, really a privilege for me to host you three amazing women today. So we've got a couple of themes that we're gonna talk about today. So I just wanted to start with. For my own experience, I spent almost 6 years at Group CH and had the privilege to see sports, firsthand, and see just what an incredible amount of work it is to be successful in sports, and how like the leaders in sports just become so important for the success of these teams. So I was going to start the theme in terms of sports as a foundation for leadership. So this actual topic, I would love to hear from each of you in terms of how like sports shape your leadership style. So you guys have been in sports for a long time, but how has that shaped your leadership style? So maybe I'll start with Christine, since you are now continuing your work as a CPA, but how did sports really impact your leadership style?
Thank you, Anna. Definitely shaped my leadership style. I think that it was different leadership styles, but I think that coaching for me is the style that I've adapted and used in the workforce. Just like when my experience in coaching rugby, whereas just to go back to the early 90s when I did have the privilege of coaching at Concordia, there was a bit of a motley crew, I would say. We had elite athletes who were national team players, provincial team players, and we had people who had never touched a rugby ball before. So it was you have to adapt your coaching, adapt the way you transfer the skill set depending on the level of knowledge. So I think that I took that, I transferred that into the workforce because not everybody is the same and not everybody learns at the same rhythm. Not everybody has the same skill set. So you have to adapt your communication skills, adapt the level of transfer of knowledge so that people can assimilate that information. So I definitely use in the workforce a coaching style in my leadership style.
Mhm. That's great. Caroline, I'd love to hear from you since you've, like obviously been on the ice for a long time, and now you've got a leadership role. So talk to us a little bit about like how it impacted your leadership style.
I think sport is one of the best foundation to help us handle the challenges, the adversity that life can throw at you. So, I think when I think back about, starting in sports, being super shy, having low self-esteem, being the only girl with the boy is learning to find my voice. And when you're really young, like leadership is more the great hockey players get the captaincy or the assistant captain. And as you grow up, you realize that leadership is not about being a good athlete. It's about the way you carry yourself, your habits on and off the field. And then I think my leadership style continued to evolve now that I am a coach. So I realized that when I was a player, I was so focused on performance, on outcome. I didn't really care if people got along. It didn't matter to me as long as they were willing to do whatever it took for us to win. And I realized that it wasn't enough. When we leave, it's about relationship, it's about trust, and it's about getting the best out of people that are next to you. If you're solely focused on your own performance, the team is not going to achieve its goal. So I really transformed my leadership when I became a coach. I realized that it's not so much about the X and O's. It's truly about relationships, getting to know your athletes, getting to know which button to push when, building a sense of trust that if they're not doing well, they can come to you and they can share. Because often, like, I would go into meetings with an athlete and be like, hey, you need to do this, 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 and that to help the team win, when you just go to the roots of why they are not well or why they are not performing to your expectation, and you just have those conversations, you often solve the problem, and then they get back to who they are, they get back to thriving. So I think leadership is forever evolving. I keep learning. I love to say that I'm a forever student of the game. I learn from other coaches a ton, and that's why I think coaching and being in sport is so exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll come back to a couple of your points in a bit, Caroline. I just wanted to hear from Alex, and then I'm going to come back to you on a couple of things around, pressure and all this kind of stuff. So, Alex, over to you.
I think I relate a lot with a lot of things that Caroline has said. I think for me personally, my leadership style has never been the one who's the loudest or the one that's going to make those great of speech. Like obviously, it is also constant learning, like you do need, I think it is very important, like also what Christine said, like the delivery of your message, the way you communicate with people, how it has an impact and an immediate impact, depending on when you want to kind of push your messages and stuff. So for me, like it always been like what I do on the field mostly and off the pitch and always going at it. So more like leading as an example, always putting my best foot forward and trying my best for the team, I think. And I think like rugby has that unique sport where you kind of on your own for 80 minutes, so like you have to figure out as a team. So I think having a leader and leadership group essentially is what's key for success of a rugby team as well. So yes, leading by example, but also I've always been driven by like a what's next mentality. So like being very like intentional with my words as a leader. And also like growing in that new, like recently when I got the honor of representing Canada as a captain, especially for that last World Cup, it was a constant learning for me to deliver those messages at key moments, especially on the pitch. So leading by example has always been more my style. But obviously like Caroline said, it is a constant learning of how you conduct yourself, how you interact with your teammates, in order to really like solve the problem or just be successful on the field. And make everything function. Obviously, it doesn't rely solely on one person in one group. Like it's the 23 that are on the field and on the bench. But yeah, that's kind of like where I think where it sees, and I think it translate 100% translate in the real world in other industries as well. So leading by example is definitely my style, I guess.
Yeah, and Alex, as you mentioned, like if you think of like the playing field, and then all of a sudden you're in a leadership challenge, like off the field. So, I'm sure there's some examples, like Caroline, in your case, there's probably some examples where you were, on the field, now you're off the field. Give us an example where you learned a great lesson, like on the field, that you then use when you had a leadership challenge, like off the field.
I mean, there's been so many. But like one of the challenges as you become a captain is often means that you've had a long career. You've been part of leadership group. I agree with what Alex said. Like you don't lead alone, and surrounding yourself with leaders that complement your strengths are so important. Like if you have all leaders that are focused on performance, on results, you're not going to have success. You need to have leaders that are going to have a good pulse on everyone on the team, that are going to know, hey, we need to go out to have a meal as a team. We need to spend time together off the field. People need to connect. People need to get to know other players around the team. So I think it's a forever, dance of, what does the team need right now? And as you get older on the team, your role change. So, I remember my last Olympics, the coaches had a meeting with them and they said to me, we don't really see you as a top 6 anymore, but we see you having so much value. You're probably going to be part of our special teams, but your role is going to change. So, of course, that hurts your ego. Every athlete wants to play. They want to play as much as possible. They want to help the team win. So I had to go back and accept that. And only when you accept a given role that you don't choose, because your coaches choose it for you, can you really feel fulfillment by doing it. So accepting it was the first part. And, they told me, we need you to lead this year. We need you to take care of the first year. We need you to make sure that the team gels together. And by choosing, you always have a choice of your attitude and how you react when you're given a certain role you don't like. And I chose to embrace it, to accept it. I chose to lead. I knew that there's still areas of my games I could improve, little details. Yeah, I wasn't going to get any faster, but I could always become a better leader. And I tried to really do that. I became captain of the team, which was one of the greatest privileges I had in my career. But then it also helped me being able to have conversation with younger players or other teammates that didn't accept the role, that were pouting at times, that had negative attitude, because I carried myself the way that I should, because I was positive. I led positively. I wanted the best out of every one of my teammates. So I was able to have those courageous conversations. And those conversations that I started having as an athlete, I have every week as a coach. And they're uncomfortable, right? When you have to deal with conflict as a captain, as a coach, is very highly uncomfortable. But it's going into those meetings and having open ears, open heart to have a conversation and to go in depth to what's happening here so we don't connect. And in the end, what matters is what's the best thing that we can do for the team. And it's all in the power of conversation, getting to know people, getting to know how to handle them. And I learned that as a captain, and I use that every week as a coach, multiple times sometimes.
That's great, Caroline. We're going to switch gears a little bit in terms of, this is a seminar of women in sport, and now we're going to talk a little bit about breaking some barriers and challenging some of the norms. So, Christine, I know back in the 80s, like you worked hard in terms of pushing sport ahead. Talk to us a little bit about breaking barriers. Did you have to break some barriers?
Well, I broke some barriers, yes, in the rugby world. But as you mentioned in the intro, so at the beginning, in the middle of the 80s, we're going way back, middle of the 80s, there was no women's rugby league. There was no organized league. So when I saw that in college, and I saw that the men had an organized league and the women didn't, I'm like, how come? So I had great assistance from the director of athletics at the college I went to. When I knocked on his door, I said, what can we do here? He says, well, if there's none, just start it. So I picked up the phone and I was able to organize all the colleges and universities who had teams into a league, and then was able to carry that forward into the organized CEGEP and University League that exists today. When I started at the accounting firm in 1990, so I graduated from Concordia, went straight into the accounting firm, have been there for 35 years. When I was named partner in 2002, so after 11 years, when I go back and I look at the photo, and Anna, they always have the partnership photos. Well, I'm the only woman. There are 20 men and me. So thankfully that today has changed, and now we're pretty much, there's a 50-50 women and men being named partners. But I think that at that time in the late 90s, there was very few women reaching the partnership level. So I definitely forged ahead in the professional life.
Yeah, so Christine, congratulations. And I know exactly what you're talking about, because in 1996, when I was named partner, there was like 500 partners and there was like 30 women. Yeah. But like the profession has evolved, but we were a little bit, ahead of our time back then. So again, congratulations on a very, very nice, successful career. Caroline, in terms of the world of hockey today, women's hockey is becoming more and more present. Would you say that you had to break barriers? Like, it's evolved a lot. Like, people are very interested in professional women's hockey. It's exciting. People go and see the games. They're getting more room in the arenas. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's incredible to have seen the involvement of women's sports in general. I think we have huge momentum all around the world now, and it's just the beginning. I think it's going to become greater and greater. And like I often say, the generation before mine, they worked full time and they trained to be on the national team. They took time off from work to go to tournaments, to go to events. Some of them got fired from jobs because they needed time off to train for the Olympics, to leave for a tournament for the Olympics. My generation, we worked part-time and we trained and played. And now when you look at it now, it's only been year 3 of the PWHL. So it's only been 3 years that women hockey players get to play hockey full-time. So the level is going to continue to increase. There's more and more girls playing hockey worldwide. The barriers are falling, where people see that more as a male-dominating sports. People now encourage girls to start skating, to play hockey. It's such a great team sport. And like every home game pretty much with La Victoire is sold out now. So it's an incredible crowd. I invite everyone to come watch a game in person, because we as women have to be the best supporters of our own sports. Like, I think our love for sports team can be endless, but we need to make sure that we support women's sports so that young girls continue to dream that they can play pro hockey. We cannot take it for granted. So many pro leagues from many different sports have come and gone, and we don't want this to happen anymore. So we have to be the biggest fans, the biggest supporters. And you see it like across sports, women are so generous of their time. They understand the importance of engaging with fans. They are grateful of having fans at their games, and they give their best every night. Like, women don't take a night off. And that's why I love being involved with it. Like I often say, coaching is the second best thing after playing. I get to work with women that are dedicated, that train so hard on and off the ice, and they want to showcase the best product that they have, and they want to make Montreal fans proud every game.
Yeah. So Caroline, I echo we all have to support women's sports. Like if you look at tennis, for example, where it's probably a bit more advanced, but in sports like hockey, Caroline, I agree with you. I think it's exciting that everybody's, really pitching in, and we need to show up. Like, we need to support the women. Alex, I'm curious, you're in the UK right now. I'm just curious in terms of, breaking barriers and, the sport that you see in Europe versus like North America. Do you see the barriers being different? Do you see it being the same? I'd just be great for you to share that with everybody.
Yes, definitely. So having played both in France and now in the UK, you can see like we have, so here in the LEADAM and in the PWR, like this is our professional league. And so, like, obviously, I wish that eventually, I think it's going to come in North America and Canada and probably the US thing. Like, there's a way to do it, and I'm hoping we're next. You know, like you see the hockey, you see the soccer. I'm hoping rugby is next, because the change has been immense for the last few years. Like, if I look back at, if we could, the easy example would be the last World Cup. If you just compare to the 2022 World Cup, and even the 2017, it's night and day, like at each of them. So the 2022 World Cup, like the final game, yes, like they filled the stadium with 60,000 people. But like even in like the bronze finals, barely, there was not that many people in the stadium. You know, like in the pool play, there was like just like, you know, the close friends and all that stuff. And then in that last World Cup, in the final game, we filled up a 82,000 stadium. You know, with so many fans and stuff. And in the last year, you know, like they did so well in England just for the build up to the World Cup and stuff. And you see like a lot more of a fan being engaged and stuff. And then that, I think that last year, in the last 2 years, has really like impacted our local, not local club, our professional teams in the UK. Like every game, we have more and more people, and like Caroline said, like the fan base is so much more engaged, and that's what like people appreciate about women's sport, is that the fans are engaged. The real community vibe. I mean, Christine could talk about that, but rugby is always like a big community. There's a real sense of community in rugby, and people, everybody knows everybody, and then you know a link, and it's just like very like family based, young boys and girls. And even now, like after the World Cup, after the game, like you stick around, and then you're able to engage with those fans, which I think is one of my favorite thing after every game here, especially at home, our own stadium. You get to talk to people of all ages. Like there's even like young adults, even like 30 years old, like girls saying like, I've just got involved with my rugby club locally. You know, like it's the community engagement has been completely different, I think, in the UK. And I know for a fact it's gonna happen at sometimes in North America. I don't see why not. It's gonna face its own challenges, but I think it's gonna be doable for sure. But yeah, there's massive difference here, and I think they've broken down barriers in terms of that professional league that they've been installing here. The viewership as well, you know, like now this year, I think every single game is viewed somewhere, whether it's on BBC, so like their TV channel here, or TNT Sport. If it's not on neither of these two channels, it will be on YouTube. So it's very accessible. Well, it is very accessible, more accessible than previous years. So I think this is what we need. I think that's what women's sport in general is, not only rugby, but all of the sport, is that viewership, you know, like the exposure, the visibility of those sports. Because I think it showed that it brings something different than men's sports, which is unique in its own. And it's been really good in the PWR. So it's my third season, and even with just these last 3 seasons, you see the evolution of when I first joined and now, you know, like it's special. And yeah, I hope that future young athletes and rugby girls, rugby boys get to experiment that for sure.
Good. Well, we continue to break those barriers. So Christine, I have a question for you. You're in the world of professionals. You work with lots of entrepreneurs. The one thing I always find interesting that I discuss with my teams often is, you know, it's the word discipline. I know everybody hates that word, but you need a lot of discipline to be a successful athlete. So, you know, my question to you is, like, what did you learn from that mindset and that discipline of being such a successful athlete, and how do you use that, like when you're talking to your professionals that you work with, or the entrepreneurs or people that you're helping in your day-to-day business?
Well, I think I was more of a successful organizer than an elite athlete. So it was more about my talent off the field than my talent on the field. I think that's my takeaway from my sports, is from the sport. My involvement in sport is very, very much, yes, you mentioned discipline, but it's being organized. You know, when you're an athlete and you're, especially through school, or you're working, as Caroline mentioned, someone working part-time and training, it's the ability to organize your schedule and to fit everything in, and to be very well, very disciplined in how you attack your schedule and your priorities. So I think that when I, if I'm in the workforce, I take those skills and definitely apply them, because in my field there's a lot of projects going on at the same time. So you have to manage many projects, many different teams, many different clients. So it's a question of using those organizational skills to maximize your time, identify your priorities, and be most efficient you can in the best way possible. So that's my transfer, I think, to my clients and in their environment, and ensuring that they maximize their efforts to maximize their bottom line, if that is their focus or their top line. So I think that that is where how I transfer those skills into my into the workplace.
Well, I'm sure you're doing a wonderful job with that. So, Caroline, my question to you is, like, you started playing hockey probably at a young age. So what advice would you give? What advice would you give young girls who aspire to lead, whether it's like in a sport or in other fields or in business? What would be the one advice you would give a young girl?
Well, I really think that every child can find a sport that they love. And so for the parents out there, it's about trying many different ones. It's about exposing them to other girls doing the sport. If you have a young girl, like, just for example, my oldest didn't really show interest until I brought her to a locker room with girls her age, and then she saw they were dressing and getting ready for a practice. Like, it felt like for her it was more a grown-up sport. So I think sport can really help shape your leadership style, help you being great at collaboration. But, I think one of the biggest things is you need allies, you need mentors, and we need men. We need men to support us, to push us up, to give us confidence. I was talking with really high up at the RBC a few years back, and he was telling me, when I open up a big position, I have all those men applying, they have half the qualification, but they still think they're it. And I have women that are highly qualified, they might be missing one small part and they don't apply. So I think we have to find men that are going to be great ally. Like, just thinking about Barry Lorenzetti, he's an incredible man that started from nothing, built BFL Canada, became highly successful, and at his core values has always been to build leadership, to give women opportunities to lead. And he's done incredible things on the business field, but also in sports. Like, he believed in women's hockey before women's hockey was popular. So we need men to help us lead. We need men to give us opportunities. And of course, we need women to support women. Often we're the highest critic of one another. It's almost, we fought so hard to get to the top, then now we want to make sure we stay there. When the best part of leadership is giving back, is sharing your knowledge. And you know what? When you share your knowledge and your experience, it comes back to you. And other people are willing to open up and share. So for me, it's really surrounding yourself with great mentors, daring, applying for jobs that, you might be with great mentors, with people around you that's going to support you, that are going to lift you up. You can learn to do the job. You can build your confidence. So that's what I would say. Like, we need mentors, we need allies, and a big part is on us to go towards people and ask for help. Like, as human beings, we love helping others. It's one of the greatest sense of validation we can have, a sense of helping others. So you have to have the courage to ask. Yeah.
Well, firstly, I think, Caroline, like, you talk about, like, some of these men that have been very critical in advancing women. And I agree with you that it's really important. I think we all have something to give, and I agree with you. The more generous we all are, the more we all move in the right direction. So, Alex, I have a quick question for you, just around, like, in terms of, like, investing in women's sports. So, Alex, if I sort of gave you the keys and said, what would be the 3 things you would do to really advance women's sports, and why do you think it's important for shaping future leaders? As Caroline said, you have a job posting, 25 guys are going to apply, like, 3 girls might. They might not be sure they have all the qualifications. So, like, do you believe like women's sports is also critical in helping us like shape future leaders because it gives confidence? Does it give women confidence to be in sports?
Definitely. I think as women, like growing up, like, have the role model, maybe as many role models to look up to, kind of like what Caroline said about allies. And so I think what we need is, definitely more people, more women leading and kind of empowering other women to lead. And so like that allowed to have more role models to like grow up and like allow young girls to, like, when they grow up, they could look at role models and say, like, I want to lead, I want to become this powerful woman. Because I think it's not something that you often see. Obviously you see the growth of it, but you also, I think we need to normalize it. We need to normalize like women being in charge, being leading, being in the forefront of things, like quickly earlier when we chat about like how you guys were the only woman among like so many other board members, so like I think this needs to we need to see that more and more, and I think like investing in women's sport as well, I think will allow that, I think, and it will like naturally narrow the gap with the gender equity as well. And you've seen it in the recent years, like how investing in women's sport is different, because I think women's are we're also like socially more conscious. We bring a different sense of community. And I think that can only, I think that these investments in women's sport can only be super beneficial for the community and the aspiring younger generations, really.
And Christine, do you think there's some specific initiatives that would accelerate some of the progress of like women in sports, or is the sort of status quo good enough?
No, I don't think the status quo is sufficient. I think a lot of it goes through how do we get from the grassroots to the elite athlete. Let's talk funding. I was happy to see last week, I read that the Canadian government was going to review the way that athletes are being compensated, financed. They're supposed to be doing a study over the next 6 months and looking into it closely. But we can't just rely on government funding. It has to be the whole community, has to be corporate Canada has got to get involved. Every level has got to be involved and chip in order to allow these athletes to excel. And I dream of the day that everybody is playing their sport that they excel at professionally and being paid to do that. That would be the victory. And I think all the elite women athletes deserve that opportunity. So I think a lot of it goes through funding. So how do we get everybody involved and contribute? It can't, as I said, can't just be a government thing. It has to be all of the whole corporate Canada community.
Yes, I agree with you 100%. Alex, who inspired you in your journey?
That's a good question. There are many people that inspire me in my journey. I think the easy one, also like you might know around probably Concordia, would be Justin Bayo, who's the former probably head coach of the women's program. I think she was one of my earlier coaches, and I think she's a great leader, I think. And she allowed me to be myself. She pushed me to limits that I didn't know I had. And like, I think there's not one time I felt she didn't believe in me. And I think having this role model, having this person, this strong woman in my life, I think has inspired me to continue chipping at it and continue essentially like following my dreams. And it's essentially why I'm here in the UK. I've been playing professionally here. I think if I didn't have this person in my life, I'm not sure I would have made the jump to leave my my professional career, boring job as my coach would say, to pursue rugby professionally, because I had to do that because, like I said, in Canada there's no such league yet. But yeah, I would say Jocelyn is an easy one for me that have been inspiring me and still does to this day.
Yeah, there's always some special person that had you, helped you make that move.
That's
So Caroline, you've had a pretty illustrious career to date. And I'm sure sometimes you get up in the morning and realize, or not, that you're quite influential, like, in your field, off the field. But when you think far, far away from now, what would you want your legacy to be? I mean, you still have decades ahead of you, but what would you want your legacy to be?
I mean, it took me 2 years to convince my dad to let me play hockey. It's actually because of my mom, who brought me to the store without him to get me my first pair of hockey skates, that I even had a shot. Like, his reaction was to bring me watch Ringette. And that's not what I wanted. I wanted to play for the Montreal Canadiens. Those were my role models, my idols. I didn't see other girls and women playing hockey. So finally he gave in, and he became, and my mom, my biggest supporter. He coached me for years, or was GM, and they still come watch me play sometimes. So that's how much they've supported and loved me. But I think just this barrier early on, and everything that I've heard along the years, like girls shouldn't play hockey, tomboy, go back to the kitchen, has really built this sense of urgency in me to give opportunities to young girls to try hockey, to fall in love with the sport. So in 2014, I started a nonprofit called Girls Hockey Celebration. And over the years, we've become one of the largest tournaments for under 15 girls in hockey. And now we have teams from Ontario, from Quebec, from the Maritimes. And we have tri-hockey programs. We have a U7 festival that we've included. We have learn to become a referee, tri-coaching program. And that's one of the things that I'm the most proud of. Like, if some young girls can come to me one day and be like, hey, I started playing hockey there and I've loved it ever since, then I've felt a sense that, I've helped others. And because I cannot imagine my life without hockey, everything that it's brought me. It's been my joy. It's been everything that I wanted to dedicate myself towards. I played 16 years on the national team, and I always wanted more games, more practice, more off-ice training. And I was petrified of the moment I would need to leave the game as an athlete, and becoming a mom actually helped me. I had kind of the closure I needed. I realized when I was on the road, hey, I want to be with my baby at home. So it gave me that closure that I desperately needed. And then I was able to find the same gratification in coaching. So experience the same emotions through my athletes. So it's become really something that I love. And, it's not easy being a mom and being in the sports field. You often feel guilty about being away from your children. But I think that for them to see us striving, to see us happy, to bring our two daughters into a hockey team where their idols become the hockey players, and now they follow them around, they love them. And it's important for my daughters to see that you can have a career that you love, and you can also do a good job at being a parent, because we need women to know that they can do both, and they can do both successfully.
So Caroline, I just wanted to congratulate you on your giving back. I think if every single one of us did it every day, we would be inspiring more and more people. So congratulations. And I'm sure in the decades to come, you'll continue to build, a great legacy, what you leave behind. But I'm just seeing some of the notes are coming from the chats, and I think it's very inspiring. And I think you continue doing that. It kind of gives me a bit of emotion when I hear that, but bravo. Because you're right, 16 years ago, you were probably a girl who wanted to, play hockey with the guys, and it's quite admirable. Christine, I'm sure every single day in a professional service firm, you are coaching people, and your role in sports, your experience in sports, your exposure to sports, just reminds us, how coaching is a lot about giving back. When people say, oh, the coach, when I look at any professional sport and you see the coaches on the sidelines, and the thrill they get of coaching. So talk to us a little bit about your day-to-day role as a coach.
I think it's so gratifying. I think it's one of the roles that is incredibly gratifying, because the ability to see people thrive, be it on the sports field, on the rink, in the pitch, in the professional life, to see them thrive, do better, want to be better, and transfer your skill sets to them and help them become the better player, the better teammate, the better accountant. It's so very gratifying. So I'm thankful for that opportunity every day, and it's fun. I think that one thing that I take away from I took away from my coaching experience and brought it to the work experience was one of the players at Concordia had, it was for me one of the best compliments I've ever received as a coach, that we made it fun. And there's one thing about we were a team that performed well, we're undefeated, won championship year after year. So it was very intense in the training, on the practice field, in the locker room. But to have a player turn around and say, you know what, you made this experience so much fun, even through this intensity, that to me was probably the greatest compliment I got as a coach. And I try to take that and bring it to work as well. Because Anna, that work of an auditor can be intense and long hours. But if we can throw in a dose of fun in there, it definitely makes it a lot more enjoyable, the long hours and the on and off the field.
Yeah, so Christine, I always say, like, work hard, like play hard. Like, the fun factor is just so critical. I think people are just way more engaged and successful and continue to grow when you make the environment fun, because sometimes things are tough. And I look at the three of you, and certain points in your careers you've had to make tough decisions. Alex, like, you were working, you decided to make a tough decision, go back into sports. So I have a lot of respect for the three of you who somewhere along the way have made some tough decisions. You're giving back. Just the fact that you're taking the time today to share your stories, and you're giving back to not just women, but everybody, just your great success stories. So you all deserve a big thank you from myself and everybody who's watching you today, and will continue to be inspired by all of you. So we are at about 12:47, and according to the instructions I've been giving, we're now been open up for questions. As I said, there's lots of comments coming through the chat, and again, thank you guys for being very inspiring. So I don't know, Ingrid, if you've got some questions that we can open up.
I'll just jump in here, Anna. One of the questions, if you can all hear me, can you confirm how many new expansion teams will be added to the PWHL next season, Carolyn?
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, that's a very good one. No, and even our GM, I don't think, knows that information. So we are at a place where we have 8 teams in the league. And as you saw, and how heartbreaking that was, every time you expand, it kind of destroys the other teams. So I think the mindset is when they will expand, they would like to get to 12 teams. Because when you get to 12 teams, then you have your league, and you don't need to do that repeatedly until you get that. So I think the whole challenge is, are we at a place where we have enough elite pro women hockey players to fill 12 teams without hurting our product? So I think the league is continually investigating that. It's not an easy decision. So I think we're all waiting. We love our players in Montreal. We want to keep all of them here for our fans to be able to continue to embrace them. But unfortunately, we don't control that. So it's going to be growing pain until we can get the league to 12 teams. When that's going to happen, no one knows except the leaders of our league.
So it comes back to your point, Carolyn, we got to keep on supporting so that it can keep on growing, right? So yes. I think that's an important message to everybody with us today. Question for any of you three, just around the question around the new WNBA. How do you guys see the new WNBA player agreement impact the growth of other leagues in women's sports?
You mean their new CBA agreement, the agreement they've been working on for the last week, I think, 24/7?
Yeah.
Is that what they're talking about?
Yeah.
I think that it's from a what they achieve will definitely change the face or the way that women get remunerated in playing professional sports. I think it's what their asks are seem reasonable, and I think that if they can be successful, I think it'll just push the bar higher for all sports. I don't know, Caroline, how if you think how it'll impact your league.
Yeah, I think it's huge. I think it's incredible that they were able to organize, fight together to have a high increase in just the salary base. I think that, it's been years that the league has been thriving, and it was really statu quo as far as what the players were getting in return. So I think the voice were getting louder and louder that this needed to be renegotiated. And they did, and hopefully everyone can be happy. That's what it's about. You want owners and teams to thrive, and you want athletes to love being there and feel like they are getting what they deserve and what they have earned. So I think it's going to have a huge impact on all women's pro sports across the globe. And, you've seen it throughout the years. I remember a few years back, the U.S. national women's hockey team was ready to go on strike if it didn't align with USA Hockey. They weren't getting any type of wage at the time. And, they were willing to do that, and it improved their training conditions immensely. And now, women's hockey players are really well supported. And I remember, Thérèse Brisson was a team captain for Team Canada. She was a Concordia alumni, but she was the one that started our player association with Team Canada. And that was really difficult because as an athlete, you're dealing with up at Hockey Canada, and you're expendable. But she had the strength, the courage to negotiate so women athletes were better treated in Canada. And she did that for us years before it could happen on the US side. So I think we need to stand united, be informed and have the knowledge of, what's coming in the league and what part of that can go to the athletes so that they are valued and they are compensated the right way. So huge kudos to the basketball players for having that fight. And I hope that the WNBA will continue to thrive. It's so exciting to watch.
Yeah, I totally agree. So Caroline, there's some people that are very curious about your experience of coaching at the Olympics. So just love to, hear from you on that and what's next for the team.
Yeah, I mean, it was absolutely incredible. I've been fortunate enough to go to the games 4 times as an athlete. It was my first time as a coach. Didn't really know what to expect, but I loved every moment of it. I felt like Milano Cortina did a great job hosting. And for us, we had a really difficult season. It was filled with some of our key players getting injured. We had games that we performed well, couldn't win. And, when you get to those big moments, you play for an Olympic gold medal, you don't have the luxury of a best of 7. It's one game, it's one final. And what you really, really want is that for that game, you show up as the best version of your team and you play a game that you can be proud of. And we did that. I mean, we were a minute or so away from pretty much having a perfect game, shutting down one of the most talented and deep US team to ever been created on the US side. So, there's so much to be proud of. When the game goes to overtime and it becomes 3-on-3, it can go either side. And unfortunately, we couldn't get the gold medal for our country, which was really heartbreaking. And for me as a coach, it certainly hurts, but it's seeing how much the athletes hurt because they care so much and they wanted that so bad. And that adds another level of hurt that I had never experienced. That being said, I think for us to come back and right away get back into the PWHL helps. It helps cope with the emotions, or you don't have time to dwell with it. And, when you're in sport, what matters is, today I showed up as the best version of myself. I gave everything I had. I felt prepared. I felt confident. And so when I think about that and I think about our athletes, they give us everything they had. And we came that close. And I'm super, super proud of our athletes carried themselves throughout the season and in those big moments.
Yeah. And Caroline, I echo, like, we're all very proud, and we saw the amount of passion and love for the game, and very, very proud. So Alex, there's a question on whether you see yourself as a coach one day. Are you going to bring rugby to North America in like a big way? What are your plans?
Don't know that far yet. Definitely, if I could be part of this sort of generation of change maker back in Canada, for sure, I will. But maybe that'll be after my playing career. But although I am a coach right now too, that's what I do kind of my off time here in the UK. So I'm currently helping out coaching at the University of Exeter. Yeah, which we won the quarterfinals yesterday. So
bravo.
it's almost in the works already, but we'll see if I pursue that after my playing career.
Okay. So it's one of the interesting questions that came through was just around like how all of you, like whether you're on the team or coaching, have to deal with things like players get injured. It's a bit like in the business world too, Christine. You're kind of short staffed and you got to pivot. So like what is that? Is that a stressful time? Like in the world of sports, when all of a sudden you've got injuries and you have to, you got to perform at your best. Like, how do you guys all handle this stuff? Like Christine, like in your world?
I think Alex can speak to it with her hand. She, how do you deal? I mean, you have to rally the troops. You have to rally the troops. One person isn't the team. Everybody contributes, and everybody contributes in their way. So I think it's just a question of motivating everybody, recognizing that everybody can bring something to the table and get the best out of the person that they can bring.
Yeah. So, Alex, one of the questions around the rugby, because everybody's getting really excited about this rugby, is that can we watch you in Canada on YouTube, or is it only available like in Europe?
Definitely YouTube when the game is not on either of those TV channel, unless you have a special sort of access, or they call it stick or I don't know what. But yeah, YouTube usually is generally very accessible for everybody in Canada. So try to welcome to tune in.
Everybody out there that was asking the questions, you can follow Alex on YouTube. There you go. So I think we're kind of wrapping up here at 12:57.
Yeah,
thanks for the great questions, everybody, and of course the generosity of our three special guests here. Thank you very, very much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, everyone. What an interesting, I was listening to you all, and as I was been preparing this event, I was like, I wish I had been a professional athlete.
Yeah.
But I was very far from that. But my kids are in competitive soccer, and Ingrid was talking about the hours that we drive and support our kids in sports. And I think it's so important. And I love watching and going to the games, and congratulations on everything that you all do. And thank you, Anna, for moderating this discussion for us today, and for everybody for attending. I am going to put, if you would like to reach out or see what our panelists are doing, I'm putting their LinkedIn addresses, their LinkedIn profiles in the chat. You can always go and check out what they're doing. And before we say goodbye, I do want to invite you to our Women Who Lead LinkedIn group. It's a Concordia alumni group for women. I put all the events that are coming up in there. I highlight what women are doing on campus, so what our alumni are doing. So if you are not a member of that, we're about 1,200 women in this group, and I usually try posting several times a week. And you can also post if you've got jobs that you would like to hire for. You can put them in the group and do use that. We also raise money here at Concordia. Fundraising is a big part of what we do. And we have Women Who Lead student bursary, and any donation, big or small, I always mention this. I'm going to also put that in the chat. If you would like to support us, the price of a coffee, it does really help. We have women on campus who do need our support. And I thank you to all the donors who are here with us today. And one of our speakers, and I think it might have been Carolyn, she was talking about powerful voices and using our voices. Well, that goes into the webinar that we're doing very soon, April 15th, with Danielle Saputo. She is a coach and an author, and she's written a book called I Am Enough. She's in the Saputo family, if you know about them here in Montreal. And she is going to talk to us about how to lean into our intuition, how to use our voices as women, often in male dominating fields or in family entrepreneurship style families. So I am putting that here. Please send it. We already have over, I think, 200 people signed up to this. So I think it's resonating with everybody. Anyway, that's all I've got for you today. Thank you, Anna, Carolyn, Christine, Alex. We're going to watch you and watch everything that you're doing, and thank you for everybody for participating today. And we'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.